Cool. All right, so we are moving on to the next section of today. Probably the one that was the most difficult to arrange, because suddenly we're not asking one really awesome, one really cool person to attend. We're actually asking 4 amazing individuals to attend at the same time, and arranging that is obviously a big pain in the bacon, but we managed it very fortunately. And what this will be about is kind of exploring and having a conversation with what are probably the most probable ways you guys will fund your businesses. 2 will be kind of, the traditional kind of getting outside investment in exchange for equity. So we do have somebody from the VC side, we do have an angel investor, but also we do realize that some people, they aren't really keen on giving away equity. So we have other methods of raising money, which is, either bootstrapping, just reinvesting the money into your startup that you get from customers, or, as we heard earlier from Lena, crowdfunding. Obviously not the equity kind, because then again it's kind of in exchange for equity, but probably the campaigns run kind of the same way. So we are dealing with a product that or a range of products that were successfully crowdfunded. So who exactly do we have on the panel today? So they will be here in like 30 seconds after I stop talking. So we have Alan, who will be the angel investor of the day, very successful kind of manager and entrepreneur in his own right. He'll tell you more about his journey, but now a very active advisor and angel investor. Then we have my very good friend Jack Fleet from Creator Fund, who is the big VC, actually a student here, doing some crazy, wicked scientific stuff that I just do not understand. But he still manages to be a very, very good like VC analyst and business developer for Creator Fund, a great venture capital company. Then we have Joe, who is actually all of your guys' neighbor, because he is also at Bonded Warehouse with his startup Houseflow, which he has been successfully bootstrapping, dealing with utilities. Also, we'll tell you more about himself in a bit. And lastly, a very spontaneous person who we asked very last minute because of an unfortunate dropout, but it's Thomas, who is an absolutely amazing inventor from UMIS, or, well, UOM now. Several products, all of them very successfully crowdfunded. And with that, I will invite these guys onto the stage, onto these beautiful chairs, and we can get this started. So probably the first thing I said, to learn more kind of about your journeys, I will just, pass the mic and ask then for kind of a brief introduction, and maybe how did you kind of get your job? Why are you doing what you're doing now? Why are you an angel investor? Why did you decide to bootstrap? What is your startup about? What are your successful campaigns? Yeah, that's it. Yeah, hold it.
Hi, I'm Al O'Brien. I started my journey in big industry and energy and telecoms back in 2003. I was approached by a small business in Northern Ireland who had some very clever energy efficiency technology, which I thought my employer should be using in Germany. And after about a year worth of DD, probably spending about $100,000 on the DD, they decided that they wanted to stay technology agnostic. So I just said, listen, this is too good, I'm going to go and do it. So I set my own company up back in 2003. It was scary. I went straight from being fully employed to not knowing where the next, and this is true, you hear people saying, oh, I've only 20 quid in my account. But I very quickly won some clients. The business became quite successful. We listed on the London Stock Exchange, and I probably stayed CEO with the business till about 2019 when we did a reverse takeover. But it struck me along the way, I used to meet a lot of particularly in energy efficiency, it's an emerging industry. You see a lot of new startups and a lot of new businesses, and there really is nothing out there to help support entrepreneurs who are in that particular sector. There might be the Green Bank, there might be all these kind of grants. So I quite enjoy working with startups. I quite enjoy working with founders. And yeah, I just felt that once I'd finished my career with the company I'd founded, I wanted to go and help the next new entrepreneurs coming through. So I find it really, really satisfying work. I love it. So right now I'm probably interconnected with a handful of companies, invested in 3 of them. And you're probably thinking, well, that doesn't sound like a lot. But believe you me, you see many, many businesses, but they're just not appropriate for investment. Sometimes they're great ideas, sometimes the fit's not right. So, but I love it. So I'm Manchester-based, but I have a focus in Europe and South America, stuff like that. So yeah, that's But I love it. It's great meeting. Even to be here today is a privilege. So more people we meet, getting connected, more people you can help, and share ideas.
Awesome. Yep. So I'm Jack. I'm a 4th-year PhD student, so I'm coming up to submitting soon, which is pretty daunting. I do a PhD in biotechnology. My kind of entrance into this world, I did a brief competition. It's called Yes. So you sort of have to pitch a hypothetical business plan, and then I thought that was actually really interesting. It's given me a real good outlook of what I could do outside of research. I'm not hugely keen on my PhD, if I'm honest, but I still like the idea of innovation and research in itself. So that was my first sort of entrance into that. I then did a short internship with the university's tech transfer office, so just seeing what it's like to be on the other side of the table. And I found that actually that was what I was mostly interested in, not the kind of startup side, but being the kind of investor. And I sort of reached out by Creative Fund, which is a student-driven venture capital fund, and has given me a brilliant outlook outside of research. So we have 3 funds now. We have a $5 million SEIS fund, a $20 million EIS fund, and a £500,000 European fund. So we have the capacity to invest sort of a wide range of checks. And we work in the sort of deep tech sector and med tech sector, but were previously sort of more sector agnostic. So the main stipulation being everyone we invest in is a student or an academic or a former student and academic. And the principle of that being that universities are sort of tech incubators for high-value startups. I mean, founders and students are pretty much the same thing. They're highly innovative people who've got really interesting ideas, and they work in really interesting areas. So if we can help develop those and help give a lot of business support to those students, then they can be incredible founders. So we've invested in 15 or 16 companies now, all across the UK. But yeah, excited to hear more from you guys. Yeah.
Sure. So I'm Joe, founder of Houseflow, and we've just finished the first 12 months of trading. So I launched it, January 2021, and I've just fully bootstrapped it organically. And the last 9 months is when I've been able to pay myself a proper salary. So it did take me about 6 months to get it fully off the ground. But essentially, we're an all-in-one utilities provider. We are tech-enabled, but it's mostly off-the-shelf software at the moment. Essentially, we partner with letting agents, landlords, social housing companies, and as soon as a tenant moves into a new home, we have all their utility accounts set up in one place, so electricity, water, gas, broadband, TV license, and then we charge them just one amount per month, and that will cover all of their bills. So it works particularly well for house shares and students where you can split the bills. So that's where we're up to. Next steps, next 12 months I probably will raise at some point to build out the tech and automation side. But it's been good in the sense that it's a cash flow positive business, so you can bootstrap it. We get paid by the tenants, and then we pay all the different suppliers from there. So yeah, that's where we're up to. It's exciting. It's quite full on. It does take a lot of energy at this stage, but yeah, it will be. It's good to see that it can work organically, and sort of take it from there.
Hello, my name's Thomas, and I like to play. I get to make products and then put them on crowdfunding platforms, and luckily there's quite a philanthropic community on there that will invest in your idea if it's good enough and it adds value to their life. So I've had 2 successful campaigns, and I'm currently working towards a 3rd one.
What are they?
Oh yeah, you probably want to know that. So we the self-heating smart mug I made, which is like the best thing in the world. Honestly, you got to get one. Serious. I've used 2 things today. One's been my phone, the other's been my smart mug. And the second thing is a ultra powerful flashlight. Flashlights are very boring. There's thousands of them. We managed to innovate in that area by changing its form. So I've made a flashlight smaller than a credit card, more powerful than a 60-watt bulb, and it's modular. So traditionally a flashlight has one use. Our flashlight has 1,000 uses, many new uses. So, oh God, I'll just show you. So we like stuff like you can just clip it like to wheelchairs and bandstands and DIY. So it's like Ray Mears is actually last week said he'll exclusively sell it in the bushcraft in this area, but it's this size and it's quite bright and it does like loads of different things. But it'll light most of this room if they weren't on. So yeah.
Awesome. All right. Now, straight kind of to comparing the various methods. So obviously we have a wide range of businesses doing loads of different things. So for each one of you guys, what would be the ideal business to kind of pursue your quote-unquote method of funding? Like what character? Yeah. Sort of like what are the characteristics that would make a business more suited for angel investment rather than probably bootstrapping or going the VC route? Maybe that's the most direct comparison.
Yeah, I mean, again, angel investing is quite subjective. VC, private equity will have more of a formulaic way of making an investment decision. For me, really, it's all about what value you're bringing and what problem do you solve. So, for me, if you are a startup and you're pre-revenue, or you could be cash flow positive, but you do need what we call a catapult moment where you need to generate organic sales. That is a time then to consider which investment route you take. Your valuation, I wouldn't worry about the valuation, and that's just not bravado. For me, that's something which you'll discuss with an angel investor anyway. So if I saw an investment proposal where they're offering me 1%, it wouldn't bother me, because I know at the end of it, when we sit down and discuss terms, it's not going to be 1%, because. So that's nothing to fret over. So I'm agnostic. Much stuff that I see, but I do distill it down to one really key thing is think of your decision maker, think of your customer, and just think to yourself, how do I make their day easier? Yeah, and the solution, does the solution solve a problem that I need to fix, or it's nice to be able to fix it? They're the 2 things that will determine for me whether or not the business has scale, or whether it'll be a niche player. So, and also it's down to people as well. It's an old, we've all said it, it's about people as well. So a lot of my investments, I will work with the company pro bono for 12, 16 weeks. It gives you a very good feeling for what they like to work with, whether they're appropriate to bring to, because one thing you want to do as an angel is you want to put in some really nice terms in there so that you don't scare off future investment, because a lot of people do that, and you end up with a founder who's probably left with 10% or 12% of the business, and probably needs to be a reorg or a re-rate. It just gets messy. So I like to work with them as well for a while. That's not day in, day out, but it's just to get an understanding of the business. And then I think there's a moment of truth where you have to sit down and say, right, I think you're appropriate, and this is how we're going to do it. So for me, it's organic. It really is. It's not I don't have a template where I say, this, that, and the other. If I get a good feeling for it, I get a good feeling for it.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say that there's probably a set point at which VCs should become on the table for you. A lot of companies will come to us and they're very early stage. They haven't really sorted out how they would scale beyond sort of a pre-seed. They have a pretty extensive timeline before they're going to reach a point where they're generating revenue. I'd say with Creator Fund specifically, we're looking to invest in companies that within the next couple of years are going to go on to raise a Series A round. So it's pre-seed and seed stage. But one of the big value adds of Creator Fund is our ability to connect you to follow-on investors. So we have a huge network of LPs, limited partners, and friends of the fund. So a lot of our impact is obviously the initial cash injection, but also helping you to scale from this to the next step. So with Creator Fund, we're looking for people within that remit where they're sort of 2 years away from a pre-Series A, Series A kind of stage. In terms of what we're looking for in you as founders, it's very specifically we value the founder over everything else. So someone who has that immense drive to succeed, to make the most of their market, to show that their business and their opportunity is going to be better than everyone else's, and a real true understanding of what their market potential is. That's the kind of the big kicker for us, because we can invest in someone who is an investable person, and they have maybe some downsides. Maybe the defensibility is a bit off. Maybe they have a slightly screwed up cap table. If they're an investable person, then we'll invest in them. But often when you have a team where there's 3 or 4 people and they're a bit sort of standoffish, but they're operating in a really interesting market and it's a really interesting product, that's kind of a bit of a turn off for us, because if we can see someone is moldable and someone is open to sort of discussions and open to advice from us as business advisors and VCs, then those people are valued more than the people who kind of stand off. Does that kind of answer? I think I forgot the question halfway through that, but yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. I've forgotten the question as well, but in terms of the gist.
Yeah, it was more like suitable.
Sure, exactly. So I guess from my perspective, and bootstrapping was something I wanted to do at the start for a few reasons. Obviously, it's proof of concept, and you can get customers and traction on board early. But in terms of who it's suitable for, the way I saw it, if you can be essentially at the start of your company a value-added reseller, because there's a lot of great companies out there and existing infrastructures out there. You don't need to reinvent the wheel, certainly I think at the start of a company, if you can lean on existing partners, suppliers, companies that already operate well, and you're essentially going to them and saying, well, we can win customers and add a bit more value on top with some sort of service, then you're leaning on them, and so you don't need to raise at that point. So yeah, if you can find other players in that industry that you're going into, where you can approach them and say, for no work on your part, we'll generate you more business, and this is how we'll do it, and this is the added value that we'll bring, then that's a great way in. And that's essentially my journey so far. I think there will come a point, and it's coming a point to us now, where you do want to build some of that infrastructure yourself. But if you can bootstrap to that point, partnerships are a great way to do it.
So if you want to do crowdfunding, you need to have something that people are interested in to back. They are quite a generous community, and you're very lucky, and they will become your salesmen, your spokespeople, your testers, but you need to make sure that there's something in it for them at the end of it, something that they can get excited about. So I know a lot of ideas are app or software based at the moment. That's difficult for people to get excited about because you find, say, even computer games are huge on Kickstarter, and the Kickstarter community is huge. Even board games, at the end of that process, the backer will get a special edition of the board game, a special character, or even a special skin in a computer game. The crowdfunding campaigns I find that don't do so well are ones that back my new band or back. You need to. I'm very lucky. Products are the most tangible of all the crowdfunding offerings, so I can offer people not only a product but an invitation into the development of that product, and they find that very exciting. A lot of them are frustrated engineers and designers, and they like seeing behind the curtain, and it's crap behind the curtain, but at least it's something else. It's a story as well as a product, and it's incredibly engaging as well. A lot of companies now are using crowdfunding platforms to launch their new products. So that's diluting what crowdfunding is. Crowdfunding is a gateway between people like myself that haven't got that big company, have just got an idea and an ambition and want to take that ambition and turn it into something physical and hopefully a company after that. Everyone on the crowdfunding platform are very supportive of that journey. And if you can share that journey with them, that's a really good recipe for a good crowdfunding campaign.
Awesome. Now, obviously, entrepreneurship, Elon Musk famously said it's like eating glass and staring into the abyss. So not a super easy thing to do and be an entrepreneur. But just to kind of gauge the difficulty of achieving success through your kind of way of funding, how difficult would you say it is for a founder to achieve success through angel, VC, bootstrapping, or crowdfunding if they decide to go that way?
I guess it depends. I mean, it depends on the business. So, and again, like I say, angels can be quite subjective. So, if you're in a particular category or your particular market segment, do your research. Go and find somebody, or go and find a group of angels, or somebody who is actually in your space. Okay, don't cold call them. Don't cold email them. Just go onto LinkedIn, find out who they're connected with, and see if you can get some sort of an intro. Okay, and go to as many networking events as you can. Keep an eye on the media in terms of the space that you're in to find out who's investing with who and who's leading, who's anchoring the investment. Sorry, I'm bleeding into VC now. Apologies, because I know all that area as well. But it's Musk saying it's like eating glass. I don't know where he got that one from, because I think we all know it's quite rewarding, and it's quite exciting when you wake up and you've got a new day and you got to go and achieve your set of things you want to achieve that day. What's that?
It's like eating glass.
No, I did find a comment. It wasn't like eating glass, believe you me. I had some sleep. I had some sleepless. I did have some sleepless nights, and you don't want you worrying about money. And I really admire you for bootstrapping your business the way you've done it. Only certain businesses, I think, lend themselves to bootstrapping, but you had cash flow, you got cash flow visibility, all that type of stuff. So do your research. If you find out who are the main players in your space, network. I think LinkedIn's absolutely brilliant. It's incredible. I mean, I've never spent a dime on it, but if I'm looking for something, I think it's the best place to find it. And just pick carefully who you want to go after. Don't email or blanket email 50 people, 2 or 3 a month even, because you're constantly, hopefully, your business is evolving. So the value of your business on day one on the first month, it will be different to the value the following month, because you've made some progress, you've done something with it. So because angel, I think it's one of the toughest actually, because it is subjected to the personality you're dealing with. So that person may like, for example, it is all about people. You've got to make damn sure and that's why I do some pro bono work for 10, 12 weeks, as I said, just to get to know them. Do they like me? Do I like them? How do I see, how do they work? Do they deliver? Do they not? It's just all those kind of things. It's all the soft stuff that you wouldn't necessarily see in a CV, So just be really clear, as I said at the beginning, what is your business and what problem are you solving, and if it's in that, if that's the angel's space or speciality, well then you've got a really good chance.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the numbers that we kind of see a month, it's probably like 150, 180 odd companies, and then we have a monthly IC of 4. So if you look at it from that perspective, it's incredibly hard to do it. But also the majority of companies that come to us aren't right for our investment. And that doesn't mean they're not right for investment from an angel or a different VC. It just means at that point in time, they're not right for our investment. So it's worth, if you get rejected from something, if you get really far down the line, you go to an IC and then you get rejected, it doesn't matter, because there's always the chance that you can succeed. And actually, I think that bootstrapping is a really good way to show an investor that you have the ability to manage your money. It's a huge thing if you go straight to an investor, you haven't spoken straight to a VC, and you haven't spoken to an angel, or if you haven't even contemplated bootstrapping, you're probably going to get parred off, because you haven't shown that you have the ability to manage your money and manage your finances and work the business. So bootstrapping is a really good way to show that you have awareness of that. Bringing on an angel at an early stage before you have proper revenue and stuff that has business connections in that area is brilliant, because you've sort of thought about the long term of your team and how that's going to work, how it's going to shape up. And then looking at the VCs, it's about picking the right one for you. So if you're operating in an edtech sector, then finding a VC that's invested in edtech companies. It doesn't have to be an edtech specific VC. It's just something that has invested in that area. The same way of a blockchain or a deep tech, finding a deep tech investor that will understand, and when you go into a conversation with them and you talk about your business, they have the ability to understand what you are talking about. And ultimately, it's a partnership between you and the investor. So you want to make sure that they're the right fit for you as much as you're the right fit for them. So yeah, I think it's hard if you look at it from a sort of outside perspective and you say, oh, there's hundreds of companies pitched into this one VC and they're only talking to 4 in their IC. But if you're selective and you take the time to think about it and you take the time to manage your kind of data room and you build that together, then you have every chance of succeeding.
Again, the question was
How difficult is it to succeed?
Yeah, I think certainly, bootstrapping found it. It's a lonely process, certainly at the start. So you've got to be comfortable almost as an independent worker, and I think that's what you learn certainly at university. It was the same for me. I mean, I left university 3 years ago, so I'd perhaps lost that community side when I was bootstrapping 12 months ago. So it is difficult. You've got to make new connections, make some cold calls, certainly to suppliers and partners as well. But yeah, you just got to be comfortable to work independently. And then thankfully, I got into the startup program at Bonded Warehouse, which you mentioned before. So again, you meet other founders and you see that there's a lot of people going through similar pain points, even if they're in a completely different industry or service. If you're starting a company, there's quite a lot in common. So yeah, I think that is the most difficult part, is having no one really to lean on. Everything stops with you. But then it's not always about eating glass. There are rewards when it comes off, and you've got a customer base and you've got partners. And I think it does get slightly easier as you go along. And with the next step, when you get a team, then you can bounce off each other as well. But yeah, you just got to be comfortable with independent work at the start.
It is painful. You talk about a bigger team, I just think more wages. And you can get more done, but the risk that you have to your business is greater. I dream of the day I have about 8 people working for me now, and it's horrendous every month end. The stress is there. It's a very naked journey. you put yourself on the line massively. You're putting your whole personality, your whole identity out to the world, and you're asking the world to judge you. And the world loves to tell you you're wrong. Everybody loves to tell you you're wrong. If you've got to find something that is strong enough, that you believe is strong enough to propose to the world. I was lucky. I went to UMIS. I've always loved inventions. I've been inventing since I was 18. It took me 20 years to settle on the right product. And it was the right product. And even with the right product, I got ripped to shreds. I've been absolutely smart. I won't. It's not a counselling session. Anyway, so you've got to... You've got to be very deliberate in your actions. Your time, your effort is finite. In crowdfunding, you have a nursery for ideas, but the world isn't like that. You can spend your time justifying your business or growing your business. You have a finite amount of effort, a finite amount of energy, and you'll find a lot of people are drawn into trying to attract funds. I hate it. I hate selling equity. Apologies. I have an angel investor as well as crowdfunding, so please. I want to get on. I want to make my products. I want to sell them to the world. I don't want to sit there justifying how I'm going to grow my business, my products, will grow my direction, and the business of the people I'm with will help it grow. It's and you're drawn into this horrible situation where you've got to go to board meetings, present cash flows, and they take an enormous amount of time rather than getting back to the customer and developing your products. I have so many products I want to get on with that I can't get on with because of justifying a business. So thank God for crowdfunding.
Yeah. Something that I found useful for me is it can be quite terrifying when you set your own company up and you've no sales. Just get your first client. Just go and get your first client. It could be somebody you know, it could be a business you've worked for. Get your first client, get a case study, get them paying real money, get your second client, get your third client. That's the way I did it. That's how I looked from the beginning, because I think if I looked at the bigger picture, I would have been completely overwhelmed. Yeah. So just get selling or get doing whatever it is you need to do. Far too many startups are beautiful put together spreadsheets, beautiful pitch deck, but okay, we'll pull that to one side. How many clients have we got? What's the client journey? What's the sales process? Just get doing, because there's nothing better than when you actually win a sale or you win a contract. It's the most amazing feeling, which is why I don't relate to chewing glass, because every win's just such a great experience for a startup.
So satisfying.
Yeah, I think there is a single kind of idea that I kind of see common across all of these kind of methods, ways of funding, that essentially all of the successful startups, they take a similar route, but then just like diverge at a single point. The most successful startups that raise through angel or VC are the ones that got to that point by executing. The most successful bootstrapping ones are the ones that execute properly. The best crowdfunding ones aren't the ones that make a nice video, but the ones that actually make a prototype, that actually do something. So it's not as much of a you either have to do one or the other, and it takes you like 3 billion different directions. You have to get the essentials right, but then it's just like a matter of selecting kind of one route. And on that kind of idea, let's say a startup is at that point, right? They walk along the early stage road of really executing well, and after this panel discussion, they say, okay, I am going to go the X route. What's the sort of time scale? How fast, when I approach you, Alan, you, Jack, or if I say, okay, I'm going to bootstrap, or I'm going to launch a campaign, how long will it kind of take to raise or make some money or do a successful campaign? Because we've heard varying different kind of timescales. You mentioned like 9 months, 6 months, and 6 months. Yeah. So all like how does the time differ?
Oh, I think ideally you'd like to do it as quickly as possible, but again, as I've mentioned before, you want to get familiar with the people you're dealing with. You want to get familiar with the business, and you want to get to know each other. So my timeline can be anything from 12, 16 weeks. But again, it depends on the founder. can the founder deliver the numbers that you're looking for? I know it sounds a little bit tedious. Apologies, but, but you do need to see some numbers, empirical advice, some track record.
I'm not dismissing.
Do you know what I mean? So you can actually, but because it is my money you're going to be using. You know what I mean? And if I'm going to believe in you, I want to make damn sure, as they were saying, will you use it properly? Do you know what I mean? So it's not there to hold you back or what have you. And so it could be 16 weeks. It could take longer. It's just so. It's all down to my bandwidth as well. If I've got something big on, which I have at the moment, I've got very little bandwidth for something else that I know would steal my time away.
Yeah, I mean, it really depends case by case. So it also depends kind of on your reasons for raising. So a lot of people will go to a VC and want to take their money because they're looking to match an Innovate UK grant fund. So say there's a £150,000 grant. You're looking 30% match funding from an external source. So if you need to do that, then you'll work into the timeline of that match funding. In terms of how fast we can work, because of our model, everyone that works with Creative Fund are students. So we're all over the country in sort of 30 odd different universities. And because of that, the reason that we work with Creative Fund is because we're bored of whatever we're doing normally. So we're kind of able to work as fast or as slow as you guys need. So on average, it's like a month from source to IC, and which fits nicely with the IC being every month. But we've seen companies that have been an entire year in our pipeline before we've invested in them, and some which have been sourced in on a Monday and IC on a Sunday. So it depends case by case, but and it also depends VC by VC. So as an early stage VC, we have sort of we're looking for different things than a sort of Andreessen Horowitz kind of that's a Series A, Series B, Series C round. They're looking and they need a lot more time on the kind of due diligence phase of discussions. So. Yeah, it kind of just depends, yeah.
So when I started, it was 3 months when I went full time with Houseflow. It was 3 months later, because from the point of just an idea, 3 months later I had my first client, and 3 months after that I was able to take money out of the business to pay myself a salary, and so that's been the last 9 months. So yeah, it was essentially 6 months unpaid, but after really 2 months, I knew it had legs, and so you can tell early on if you can make money from it, bootstrapping. If it didn't, I would have gone down the investment route, because perhaps maybe they did need that injection to build the infrastructure. But as Thomas said, I could have gone for investment, but that would have taken time away from running the business and winning sales and actually executing on what's important. I could have put a really nice pitch deck together and sold the dream, but it does take a lot of time, and I'm realizing that now that I only just put together my first pitch deck, proper pitch deck now, and even then it needs a bit of work and it needs time, but that is time away from the business. So it is always a constant, benefit to cost calculation. The time out of the business, in the time it takes me to raise 100k, I could have made 20k organically. It's an ongoing, I think, calculation. But yeah, business and execution, if you can do that first, absolutely. And I think I'm still not at maximum as well. I could still onboard more clients, more homes, and really, once I'm at a max, I think that's a good time where you just don't have time to run the business. You need to then scale, and I think I'm a few months away from that, to be fair. But yeah, it's business first, but then investment will be necessary, I think, at some point.
I've been quite unfair to the investors. They're a very important part of the process.
It's not you.
No, I'm making it sound like that. But it is just you've got to be conscious that it's about you, it's about your journey, your product, what you're offering, and it's very important that you put that as across as best you can, because you only get one shot at that idea to put that across the world, right? You get to polish it later on. And there's always a demand on your time. You've got bills to pay, and your investor wants to know how much you can earn from your crowdfunding campaign. Or I did my first before investment. That's how I met my investor, actually, through crowdfunding. It's a really good way of meeting people with a similar mindset. Look, you can tell which crowdfunding campaigns are going to do well before they've even launched. They're the most polished, they're the best looking ones with the best videos. Now, a video you don't need to spend £20,000 on a video, but you do need to spend about £6,000, £7,000, £8,000. You need to be the Steven Spielberg of that video. You need to every detail of it, every second of it needs to be just right, because the video is going to convey as best you can to your audience what your offering is, what your product is, and will be used beyond your campaign to explain to buyers, to investors, what you're offering. So I would say you need to spend 6 to 9 months on a crowdfunding campaign from the start, the day you say I'm going to write it, and getting all the graphics right, getting the feel right. It's a magazine. You're creating a magazine about your product and about yourself. So, yeah, 9 months.
Mm-hmm. Now, already during this round, you guys mentioned several kind of difficulties between the various kind of methods. And by the way, I really do appreciate, I like it, drama sells nowadays. They do these YouTuber fights, so maybe next time we get you guys a pair of boxing gloves and we can have it. I need to gaslight a little bit. No, but obviously on one side, so Joe, for example, mentioned that when you go and pursue more of like the investment route, then okay, it's like opportunity cost. But on the other hand, definitely it like adds growth. It adds like rocket fuel. So now I'm going to ask for a bit of like self-reflection from each one of you guys. What is maybe the biggest disadvantage in your opinion when somebody goes and says, okay, I'm going to do like angel or VC or bootstrap or crowdfund? What's like the biggest disadvantage? Is it the equity? Is it the time that you have to spend accessing that? Is it kind of the risk of failure? What's kind of the biggest disadvantage of your
perspective of the founder?
Yes.
I don't know how to answer that one. So I guess if you can spend some time with a potential investor or an angel, in my case, you hopefully de-risk that process over 15, 16 weeks. You can still be doing the paper trail, but again, we're not here to. I was on the other side of that table. I needed to find my own investment as well when I first started on my journey. So you do want to make sure you keep the plate spinning. I hate to use that. I know why I used it, but I hate that one. But yeah, you just need to just be very clear about who does demarcation as well. When if you are going to get a bite from an angel, it's got to be a very equitable working relationship. And you need to understand what the angel is going to bring to you. Forget even the term angel. You're looking for a business partner, okay? And is that business partner from your industry? Or is this business partner going to bring some experience? Or you'll find a lot of CEOs need mentors. They actually need people to keep tapping to when they come to the riverbank. They just need to be pushed back into the middle of the river, the fast-flowing river. So it all depends what you're looking for. So it's very subjective. It's case by case. But I think the worst nightmare is where you've been hoodwinked. You get a business partner in, sweet as pie, and within 2 months the thing is just it's just not a healthy relationship. And trying to extract yourself from that, I've never had to do it. No one's had to do it with me, but I'd imagine it's quite stressful. You've got a dream, you've got a vision, you want to do the day-to-day stuff, and then if it goes sour, so spend time with your investors. It's more probably attributable to what I do than to the three chaps here. Just get to know them, get to see what it's like working with them. Okay, walk in their shoes, they walk in your shoes. I'd say within a month, 2 months, you'll get to know each other really, really well. And also for an experienced investor, we know you're stressed. And we know it's not a natural situation when we first meet. You're nervous, okay? That's all forgivable, yeah? Hopefully we can get through it within a couple of days, and then we just get on delivering. And hopefully by the end of those 12 weeks, or whatever how long period it takes, you look at each other and going to go, this is going to work great. Team, let's go. Just execute.
Yeah, I think my answer is going to be fairly similar, to be honest. Obviously, it takes time to raise. It takes an immense amount of time. Same way as if you're doing crowdfunding, same as raising sort of equity rounds. It takes time, and that's time taken away from your business, and that's incredibly stressful when you're thinking about the fact that the investors are looking for you to generate leads and maintain the whether it's a product and sort of sell the business while you're raising, and then the raise itself will push you to that next level. So that entire thing is incredibly stressful. So I guess stress is the biggest crux. I'd say that I'd also be wary of some investors. There are some VCs who don't have the founder's best interests at heart. I know that's a bit weird because they're thinking that a VC or an investor would put your interests first before their own, but those are the VCs that you want to be targeting. The ones that are just there they see the potential in your business, but they don't value you as a founder. If you get in a situation where they're really hard negotiators and they take a sizable chunk of equity out of your business, if you have other investors or other people who have chunks out of that business as well, you could be left in a situation where you have not enough equity on the cap table, and they have the potential to replace you on the team, on the CEO. And that's happened with a few companies that I know. They've been ousted from their own companies, which is depressing. So you have to due diligence as much as them due diligencing you. So you have to put your own effort in to find the right investor for you, whether that's an angel or a VC. And that in itself is very stressful, knowing that you could make a wrong decision, which could end your business. It probably won't, because if you're a reasonable businessman, you have an understanding of a good gist of how to avoid that. But I think it's important to bring on the right team around you, so you're not doing all the legwork yourself. I'd say that the companies that we kind of look for are those that have maybe an angel investor or a good sort of advisory network, so that they're not going to fall down the wrong path and they're not so green on the investment side. So it's building out that advisory team outside of the core team that are working, and then those that know their business and the way that they want to pursue their business. So yeah, I think that it's incredibly stressful. It's very time consuming. You have a lot of people who want to take a little bit out of your business or loads out of your business. So you probably get to the point where you're worrying about how much you have of your business after you've raised, because obviously it's an equity-based thing, so you're going to lose a chunk, and then further down the line, how much more equity you're going to be diluted by, and blah, blah, blah. So yeah, stress, unfortunately.
Sure. I think from bootstrapping, a big setback is you don't have anyone on top of you, really, who's pushing you. And I think energy levels can drop, and I do think, say, if I had taken investment early on, we'd be further along. We'd be bigger. We'd have more customers and clients, and I'm sure of that. So that is a definite, clear drawback. You're going to grow more slowly. I think I've learned more this way in terms of the intricacies of how the industries operate, because I've had to almost be creative in how we deliver our service, because you don't have the capital behind you. So I've learned more, but then I've probably had less motivation to be really going for it and onboarding as many customers as I can. I've kind of been taking my pace to learn. So that is a drawback, there's a danger it turns into a lifestyle business and you just happily go along your day to day. So that investment side, the angel, the VC, it's it's not just the capital, it's also someone on top of you saying, show me the numbers, what's our targets. I find it difficult to set targets for myself because I know I set them and they're flexible. So I think that is a drawback, and you can lose motivation that way.
Oh, some very, very good comments. Angel investors are called angel investors for a good reason. They are really important to a business. They believe in you, and it is just an idea or something that's far away from being a sustainable business. They are godsends. Even with crowdfunding, you need a pot of money to create a campaign and to support the project along the way, because if your project is sufficiently ambitious. VCs, some very honest comments there. I was advised many times to go straight to a VC with my ideas because my ideas were quite scalable, still are. I was told to sell my 90% of my business, own 10%, and focus on the innovation. I'm so glad I didn't. It would have taken all the enthusiasm out of it. So you're very good to point that out. VCs are in it to make money, and if they see you've picked a good market and they can make, even Dyson himself got voted out of his own company when he first set it up. He invented the wheelbarrow before the washing machines with the ball wheelbarrow, and he got voted off his own board. So now he has 100% of the shares at Dyson, which is phenomenal, really, when you think of how much investment he got. But just on that, he was able to fund his business at a time when banks were willing to invest in it. He was given 5 years' worth of money to live at home and innovate cyclones in his shed. I wish I had that life. So we live in a different age. You have a finite amount of time for your business. You've got to. You're planning out your life. Your 30 years of you've got to think where you want to end up. If you the money accelerates your end goal. It's like a snowball. If you start with a pebble and you're rolling, it's going to take a while for the snowball to be substantial enough for it to pick up enough snow as it rolls along. An investor provides that gravity, that weight, that amount of money to move forward quickly. But just be careful the snowball doesn't knock you over along the journey, because it was your snowball in the first place.
So now I will kind of maybe my last question before we open it up for a very, very, we'll have to do a very quick Q&A. But on the contrary, now we've kind of, we've said some bad stuff about our method of pursuing funding. But let's say there was a founder who magically created the ultimate product. It's something that it's a product, so very good, for crowdfunding, with a lot of partnerships. So it would make sense to also bootstrap it with high growth potential. But also the founder, spoke about team, somebody who you can really imagine working with, and they're at that stage where angel investment could also be considered. So we have this perfect storm, perfect combination that could go for any of these four routes. If you had to make a compelling case and say, hey, come my way, because, what would that because be?
Well, this isn't bravado, but I'd give it to Jack and he'd pay me a commission, essentially. Honestly, though, because that's not... An angel really gets in early and tries to offer some support and some guidance. I think the situation you're describing, they're primed, it's ready, and it's scalable. And I would say VC, for the very simple reason, is that VC can surround you with some really talented people. They've got some great connections in the industry, and as a founding CEO, you don't want to be worrying about money. You don't want to do a very quick fundraise and then 3 months down the line you need to raise more money, okay? Because the founders will be able to help you do all that middle and back office stuff as well as the sexy stuff. They'll take all that from you, and they'll put together the package for you. And so that would be, for that sort of deal, I think VC the whole way.
But evidently you mentioned like money plus mentorship.
Yeah, but the example you gave me was you had a I'm just answering to that. But I mean, I think what an angel should give you mentorship as well. I don't believe an angel comes in, lobs a load of dosh on the table and says just do whatever I want with it. I'll come back to you in 6 weeks' time, and if you haven't delivered, I'll steal the company. I mean, it doesn't happen that way. So, I mean, you're looking for what value can this angel bring to my business? Forget about the money. What value are you bringing? Yeah, and can I work with you? So, another thing Jack mentioned, always look at the term sheet. If you see a term sheet and you say to yourself, in 6 months down the line, if I need to raise money again, is this attractive to future investors? If it isn't, don't sign it. Okay?
Yeah, I mean, definitely VC. But actually, on a side note, I don't know if any of you have heard of Figone. It's a company out of Durham. A couple of students founded it. They took 400k from an angel investor, and then they raised a massive round from some huge UK, EU, American investors. And then they went bankrupt. And there's a thing called preferential options. The first person to get screwed was the angel investor who put 400k of his own money in, because the capital that they could give back that they hadn't used from the raise immediately went to the seed investors. So, yeah, the angel investor often gets screwed first, unfortunately. But yeah, no, I think in this perfect situation, what Creator Fund, specifically speaking from my own experience, can offer is that ability to scale very rapidly, to scale within a year from a seed to a Series A round, the connections that you can get to future investors, the connections that you can get to commercial advisors or business advisors or people within the specific area. When you take a VC investment, you're looking for that impetus to go from the first 1, 2, 3 customers to 100. So it's that huge step that you do to accelerate your business. Also, speaking from Creator Fund's perspective, because we only invest in student founders and academic founders, and everyone that works with Creator Fund are students and postdocs, we have this network of first hires, essentially. So we have a network of people 1 to 2 degrees of freedom outside of ourselves on the team, people that used to work on the team. We all work in very specialized areas, whether that's biotech, medtech, AI, data, robotics, etc. A lot of our companies, their first hire comes through us, whether that's directly from our team. We recently invested in a company called Chemify, and one of our investment partners out of Oxford flew to Edinburgh to sort of big himself up as what he can offer as someone from Creator Fund onto their team, and now he's going to go and work for them. And a lot of this happens is our ability to place ourselves sort of onto the team and help you out in that sense. So in this perfect situation, yeah, I think the ability to scale and the ability to build out your team, whether that's directly in sort of the lower levels or the commercial advisory levels.
Yeah, exactly. I think in the perfect scenario, I think you have to agree with these two, of course. I think the only danger, which you mentioned with was it Figo? Yeah. I think the danger is if you do raise early or go straight to VC, and then you start automating processes that are then difficult to go back on, and you're building slightly the wrong thing, it can almost backfire and doesn't look great on you or the business. So obviously, yeah, VC is the supercharge, but when you're bootstrapping, you see, and you can chop and change all the time quite easily, because we had like the energy crisis we're going through now, which didn't exist when I first started, 9 months ago, 12 months ago. So we lost a few suppliers, went bust, that we used, and if we'd integrated with their systems with a load of cash, all of a sudden you're back to square one, and you've spent the money. So yes, I'm sure it's all about timing, waiting for that perfect storm that you talk about, and then supercharge. Because even now, yeah, I'm chopping and changing things and customizing relationships, and because of the nature of the industry, you've got to know the industry that you're working in, how stable that is, before you build out a big team. And automation will be key for us. So yeah, it's a combination, and then of course timing.
Look, so even with the perfect products, you're probably not going to make it. It's
It's the broken glass.
however, it's very important you act like you will. It's very important that if you've got the you've got to have the right people around you, the right team. You need to be able to have. You can't do everything on yourself. You can't do everything as good as. You've got to get specific graphic designers in. You've got to get specific marketers in. You do need a strong team around you. And you do need to fund that team. If you try and do it yourself, it will come across that it's a one-man show, and even with the best products, it'll be put across in an amateur way, and it'll be missed by the market. So you've got to get a few very strong, very talented people around you. That you can, I call them heroes around me, that I know if I give them a job that they are going to give me as good an output as anyone else can give. I gave them equity to do that. I didn't go and pay their wages through crowdfunding. I gave my electrical engineer 10% to design all the electronics for my products, and I gave a manufacturing guy in China who I work with 10% of my company to set up my manufacturing facility in China. The reason I did all that was I had their buy-in for the long run. I knew this was a journey. I released their equity over 5 years, 2% a year for 5 years to ensure their buy-in. That for me was a zero cost exercise that ensured me a skill set that enabled me to act. People completely miss the point of investment. Investment, they think they make it. It's not. It's a license to operate. And the arrogance that comes with investment is phenomenal. People spend their lives raising funds, which is why I'm so I'm not against it at all. I rely heavily on my investor. I'm just very wary that they're in it for themselves, not for me. No, their success will make them money. Yeah, I'm not. So it's in their interest for me to win, but they're in it for them. Okay, I'm in it for me. So I'm going to build a team around it that works, and I'm glad I gave away. Half my company is the people that work with me because it's our company. And we have been through some difficult times with no money, and we've able to guarantee an output each time. So, yeah, strong team, but it's your journey. You've got to execute it. Don't go. I've seen so many companies fail, getting big £1 million investments, getting huge managers in, and they're out of cash in 2 years because they can't possibly match the revenue that they said they would. If that answers anything, I don't know.
Amazing. I think this panel has been incredibly valuable, and I am very happy to have had all of you guys here because I think the businesses that now you are facing, I think basically there is a great example for each one of you. I see a few potential, probably like angel, some definite like inventors who would appreciate the crowdfunding way, probably more VC, bootstraps. You know, there is a bunch. So I will open it up to the floor. Probably we will have to take maybe like 1 or 2 questions max, just to be wary of the time. So anyone have a burning question? Or has everything been clarified?
Yeah, I was thinking, we've been talking about, always thinking about one side of the investment, about getting the funds, but what about the other side, about like returning those funds? Like, how long does it take and how does it work for the different things that you do?
Well, for me, it's many ways. If it's mezzanine, if it's structured debt, it could be a silver bullet payment where you just pay it all off in one payment in 5 years. If there are many permutations of what that could look like, or it could be a straight equity play depending on the strength of the founder, the business, the revenue, all that type of stuff. So yeah, I mean, yeah, either, and that's essentially how you manage it. So you talk about your exit. You need to think about the investor's exit as well.
No, yeah, but like...
Have I misunderstood your question?
No, it's that.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so what we look for is a company that has the ability to 100x our fund. So our first fund, an SEIS fund, £3.5 million, $5 million, we want the company to exit at a value of 100 times that fund, so 500 million, right? And that's the sort of the moonshot. All of these investments are all like moonshot investments. They all have the potential to do that, and all we need is one. So if we get one to go anywhere near that, that's like unbelievable. We're very optimistic, but that's unbelievable. And obviously, there's any kind of exit below that. So even just a 10x on a fund is still incredible, right? That's still an incredible return. The fund lasts anywhere between 6 and 10 years, so it depends on the fund. So in terms of kind of our return on investment, that's sort of we would see that when you exit, whether that's through an acquisition or whether that's through an IPO or whatever your chosen exit is. So all this sort of super early stage investment, we're knowing that we're not going to see any kind of return come into our bank account for the next 6 to 10 years. So we know that making the investments that we do, but the reason that we make the investments we do is because we believe that those companies have the ability to 100x.
Sure. I think it's difficult for me at this stage, early on. I do struggle with the idea of working out when the exits are, because all my focus is essentially on the customer and what's best for the customer, and I'm trying to build something that's optimal for them. But of course, then investors need a return, and if that's an exit to a bigger company, I'd just be wary of what that exit looks like in terms of who you're selling it to. Because if you can grow a company with the customer clearly at front and center, it's a balance. So I find it difficult to think about exits now, but I'm sure, it's something I'll look into.
Yeah, you've definitely got to give the vision of where the investor's going to make their money back. I tend to give them a 5-year. My recent fund, I've offered 5 years, maybe looking to float in 5 years, but really I don't want to. Really, I want to keep this going for as long as I'm going, so I don't like the idea of exiting.
Yeah, I guess that's it. Thank you guys so much.